There are 42 bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree. That's one more boss than there is in Dark Souls 2 with its DLC included. That's insane. However, much like the base game, Shadow of the Erdtree can be beaten in much fewer bosses than that. And after doing some calculating, it takes even less bosses to beat the DLC than it does to beat the base game. Can you guess how many?
4.
That's right, 4. Good news about that is that we'll end up avoiding most of the more annoying bosses like Dancing Lion, Jory, and Gaius. Bad news is we don't get to fight peak bosses like Midra and
Curse you, Baal!
This one will more than likely be shorter than the first video, depending on how long it takes for me to beat certain bosses. Looking at you, Consort Radon. Now with all that out of the way, let's get started. It had been a long while since I took the Elden Throne, and with my ascendance to the throne, I ended up wedding Queen Marika, which, can you blame me? She told me about her femboy son, Mikola, who needed to be punished. Not for being a femboy, of course, but because he actually fooled people into thinking that Mohg was a pedophile. And that ain't cool, so naturally I agreed to do so. Thankfully, I remembered that Mohg had Mikola's cocoon in his arena, so I went there and was met by Leda, who would never stab me in the back or anything. Why would you even think such a thing? With that, we touched Mikola. Not like that, not like that! And after evading the Elden police, I ended up in the Shadowlands, where I began the very first thing on my list, which was gathering Erdtree fragments and revered Spirit Ash fragments. I feel like this is worse than collecting the golden seeds and sacred tears. At least those are easy to find, and there are more golden seeds in the game than what you need, so you can get all the ones that you do, no matter what path you take. I like that design, so why they decided not to do that with these is beyond me. Either way, we could get a decent bit of them without fighting any bosses. Problem is, a lot of them are locked behind bosses, like 5 are locked behind Gaius, 2 are locked behind the Golden Hippo boss, and a few are locked in the Abyssal Woods and the Jagged Peak, 2 areas we can't get to without killing bosses beforehand. I know that they were buffed in a patch, so you don't need every single one of them in order to actually get a meaningful buff, but I would still rather have all of them. One of the first places I went to get them was Belorod. I thought this would be a pain, but while going up I realized I could one-shot almost everything in the town with jump attacks, and these big guys were made trivial with the jump attacks. Didn't stop one of them from almost killing me, of course. And because I was feeling quite ballsy, on top of having a stake of Marika, I decided to fight this Uterus, which went down better than I thought it would. I then decided to go inside of Castellensis and even brought down this troll and this knight. Both went down with ease, and I grabbed the only thing I came in here for. In other news, you can actually skip Castellensis. Before I did that, we grabbed this other revered Spirit Ash fragment along with a 2-headed turtle talisman. After that, I went and found this Spirit Spring, which I used Margit's Shackle on to break the seal upon. Don't know why this is allowed, but it saves time and it's more fun. I ran past this dragon and continued collecting Erdtree fragments and revered Spirit Ash fragments. I guess you could say that I didn't really need to get revered Spirit Ash fragments since I won't be using summons and Torrent can't really be used in the boss fights to come. But I still wanted them to make Torrent a little less squishy in the open world. While I was gathering them, of course, I came across this guy and we had a pretty even fight with one another before I came out on top as the victor. After all that, I decided it was finally time to approach the Shadow Keep. Doing it from the side because you have to fight an optional boss if you come from the front. This would set me back later. As we approached, we sensed that the femboy shattered his Great Rune, which caused a lot of his followers to wake up from their bewitchment. Despite that, Leda was still being a simp, though the Horn Simp was getting all bloodthirsty, which caused Leda to say that we should kill him. Which, since he said some unkind things about my wife, I agreed. But before I did that, I decided to go over and talk to this guy, who used to be in service to Lord Mohg. Awkward. And he talked about how much of a monster Mikola was and how he has the power to manipulate people into loving him, including Mohg himself, which is also what led people to believe he was a pedophile in the first place. Made me want to end him more. Then I went over and talked to this guy who didn't know what to do with himself after Mikola's enchantment broke, and I was given the choice to either be a good therapist or a bad one, which didn't seem right to me. I mean, it's not like he... What's that? He does what in the final battle? You know what, more? Maybe you should jump. And after I told him to do that, I found his body and took his armor for myself. It was stronger than Lionel's armor and had more poise, so it'll do perfectly. Sad thing is it caused me to fat roll. Then I knew it was time to clean out all of the rest of the Erdtree fragments and revered Spirit Ash fragments that I could get from the Shadow Keep, even unlocking the Grace just before Mesmer. While I was doing that, I called back to New Londo, talked to this old guy again who told me about Mohg's body being taken to Mikola, probably nothing I need to worry about. I also went and killed these 2 hippos for Erdtree fragments. They weren't bosses, so it was fine. Then I went and assisted Leda in killing the Horn Simp, which was quite easy, and then she talked about wanting to kill Ansbach, and I didn't want to kill him. He was a chill dude, so before I assisted him, him, I gave him this scroll that I found, and he mentioned that the scroll revealed that Moog's body was going to be used to resurrect Radahn. Okay, guess it was something to worry about. After that, I helped Ansbach fend off Letta. It was very close though. Okay, so for this part I lost the footage. Thankfully it wasn't a boss fight this time. Still sorry about that. But I did get to Rao, don't really know how you pronounce that, killed the golden hippo, gathered more Shadow Tree fragments and revered Spirit Ash fragments, and even got the grace outside of Romina's boss room. I should also mention I gained a shit ton of runes throughout this endeavor and was able to level up my vigor to 50, though I had it up a decent bit before then thanks to killing Elden Beast, and my endurance up to 60, which allowed me to mid-roll again. Also at this point my shadow level was 14 and my revered spirit level was 8, and that is as high as I could get them until I could access the final area. And now it was time to fight Mesmer. Man, I remember when I first stumbled upon Mesmer back when I first played. I was just playing the DLC in my spare time so I could still enjoy it outside of my Let's Play, and I didn't even know that I was about to enter a boss fight. Oh no. Oh no. I'm stuck. I'm stuck in a boss. I'm stuck in a boss. I didn't know there was a boss here.
Mongrel intruder. That tarnished, it seemeth.
What the fuck?
Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of life?
Oh my god, am I fighting Mesmer already? Oh my god, it's Mesmer. I am not ready. 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 I am not fucking ready. There is something you guys should know. This is literally my second time fighting him. I haven't played the DLC much at all outside of my Let's Play of it. I did jump in here a time or two, and even did it on my Antspur Rapier run, which is what led me to separate this from the base game video. So I am not super familiar with these fights, outside of watching other people fight. So I figured this was gonna go poorly. And I was kinda right, or at least I thought I was. Second try, I made him so mad that he ripped his eye out and turned into a giant snake. Pretty metal, not gonna lie. And then I died again. Third try, I had a few close calls, but I ended up getting him in the end. Cool fight. With his runes, I got my strength up to 54, and I farmed a bit to get it up one more level. Now it was time to face off with Romina. I remember her being kinda annoying, but we'll just have to see. And while I did have a few close calls, I had no reason to worry, because I beat her my first try. These weapons can almost trivialize everything, it seems. I really shouldn't have said that. Anyway, I used the runes I got from her to get my strength up to 58, farmed to get up to an even 60, and then I set this tree on fire and got reminded of Melinda. I know that I have my wife now, but it still hurts to remember her.
Goodbye.
Anyway, after that it was time to enter the endgame. I'm still shocked at how well Mesmer and Romina went, though I knew that my luck was probably gonna run out, because not only did I have a gank fight waiting for me, but I also had Radahn waiting for me, and he is famously the hardest boss of this DLC. Hell, I didn't even beat him fairly in my Let's Play if you think like one of those elitists. But of course, before I could fight those last two bosses, I needed to get the last few Shadow Tree fragments and revered Spirit Ash fragments in the area, while getting revenge on this guy for all the trouble he gave me in my Let's Play. Ran through the bullshit zone, remembered what the jump button was, watch my Let's Play to understand. Got killed by this guy, then the gravity, then snuck past this guy, backtracked for the last revered Spirit Ashes because the people who made this guy can't do it right, and finally arrived at the next boss fight with a Shadow level of 15 and a revered spirit level of 9. Now they're as high as I could get them. I was wrong, by the way. Before I faced the next boss, however, I decided to farm until I got my vigor up to 56. Figured more health would be good for these last two fights. And then I went and challenged Letta, who went on and on about something about Mikola and something about the Erdtree, and then she disappeared. And if you think that I'm not summoning Ansbach for this, then you're sorely mistaken. It's a gank fight. I'm gonna gank it back. As I prepared myself for the fight, I breathed a sigh of relief knowing that it was just gonna be her and Samurai Jack. Didn't know if the Trina Simp or Radahn Simp were gonna join or not. Almost immediately I destroyed Samurai Jack but almost got wrecked by Letta, so I waited for Ansbach to join and we bullied her until she ultimately fell to our might. After that, I gathered the spoils of my victory and confessed to Ansbach that it was me who killed Moog, which he already knew about, but assured me that the enchantment was more to blame than me, and agreed to help me in the final fight, which I politely declined because I wanted to do this solo. With the runes I got from the fight, I got my vigor up to 57 and sold some shit and farmed to get up to 58. With all of that prep done, it was time for the big finale. This was a fight that I was nervous for since I summoned to beat him the first time, but at the same time I was excited for it. I began the fight and listened to the femboy praise me and his sister for beating Radahn. Bro, she didn't even finish the fight, I did all the work. Yes, I know I wouldn't have been able to do it without her weakening him, shut up. And he pulled up his swords with a mighty crack in the earth and we began our fight. I managed to get him to the second phase fairly quickly, which surprised the hell out of me. He started glowing red, I questioned why Mikola is a foot cam, that is a child Miyazaki, and he asked Radahn for a piggyback ride, which he did. And then he almost instantly wiped me out, and I died again, and again, and again, and again. Now you see why he has 2 chapters dedicated to him. Spoilers, I guess. And after several more deaths, one ending with me being molested, I decided now was a good time to farm. And after a lot of farming, I got my vigor up to an even 60 and my strength up to 70. Would have gotten it up to 80, but it was already taking too long to get up to there, so I figured I'd just leave it at that. At this point, I was really debating on summoning Ansbach for this fight. I mean, I had nothing to prove, and I don't care what those elitists say. Winning is winning. And after a few more rage-inducing attempts, I said fuck it and summoned Ansbach. Sure, he increased his health, but he would also serve as a meat shield, so I didn't really care. And if it makes the elitists feel any better, it was still really fucking hard even with a summon. I even got him to where he falls from the sky and survived that, but of course I lost this one too. And after a few more deaths, I stopped and took a break. To think I used to like this fight, but only after my nostalgia goggles had been taken off do I realize this fight kinda sucks. I mean, the first phase was fine and easy to telegraph, but the second phase, it seems that even when you dodge an attack, there's a follow-up to it that's almost impossible to avoid. Plus that grab move, which is easy to avoid, but if you do get grabbed twice, you're fucked. And if you don't have Mikola's Great Rune, which can only be gotten from the Shadow Tree avatar, which I cannot fight, you basically have to pray you don't get grabbed a second time. If it weren't for all of the holy attacks, then it wouldn't be so bad. Hell, I give Elded Beast a lot of shit, but at least his holy attacks are avoidable and easy to telegraph. These attacks are random as fuck. I didn't like having to leave the week on me giving up, but it was either that or spend the entire day fighting him, which I was not willing to do. At least now that I couldn't see the end in sight. So I put it down and left it to be picked up another day. In the meantime, I went and grabbed the Golden Braid Talisman for extra holy resistance, figuring that could come in handy. Had to sacrifice the Erdtree's favorite though, but it would work out in the long run, at least I hoped. I also forgot that there was one Shadow Tree fragment that I didn't grab, so I went to get it and that was enough to get my Shadow level up to 16, which from what I gather, actually gives me 95% more attack power, as opposed to the 80% I had before, and a 51.3% in damage negation, previously was 51.9%. I hope that these numbers would help. I also went back to the base game and got the winged crystal tier so I could still fast roll, since taking away the Erdtree's favor made me fat roll and combined that with the green spill crystal tier to get some extra stamina in the fight. Once again, wish it was the green burst for the stamina recovery. The next thing I did was cave and level my strength up to 80, since I saw that I could still get a good bit more out of it on the way up. I'm not recording any of that because that's just more footage for me to sift through, so just trust me on it. And then, after waiting for the storm to pass, hence the names of these 2 chapters, I finally decided to fight Radahn again. This time, I decided to do it solo once more. Since I figured I had a decent advantage now, plus Ansbach was kind of fucking up his AI a bit, causing him to launch attacks while looking at Ansbach at me instead, which is fucking ridiculous. And after several more rage-inducing deaths, you know what? I'm just gonna let the fight play out. Yes, I managed to stagger him before he jumped up into the air, which surprised the fuck out of me, but I think that's what ultimately saved this fight. I was also glad that I decided to run backwards during that last combo, otherwise I would have died and that would have been heartbreaking. But thankfully, I finally did it, and this emote represented exactly how I was feeling in this moment. Not to mention, this was the first time I ever beat him on my own, so I guess that counts for something. I let this cutscene play out, and then I said goodbye to this run. After all this time, it was finally over for real this time. And hey, you guys got to see the fight this time. Good on ya. This was originally supposed to come out sooner. Like, I managed to get through half of the DLC in one day. The collection and the Mesmer and Romina fights took place within a single day, and the fight against Leda and Radon took place the next day. I had hoped to beat Radon the same day, but you already saw what happened. And I would have kept going, but not only did work start back up, but a huge storm was coming, and I was so paranoid about it, I took all of the video clips for this and put them on a flash drive, and put said flash drive in my safe. Yes, I have a safe. And we even had a funnel cloud go over our house. For those of you who don't know, funnel clouds are what eventually transforms into a tornado. Thankfully, it didn't do much except for sucking up the rain, so we're fine. Same can't be said for the dead trees around our area, but it did touch down shortly after it went over my house, so we were lucky. And these fights against Radon took place within a single day, and needless to say, I was on the verge of tears at the end for finally being rid of him. I think I should take a bit of a break from Elden Ring for a while, because this one took a lot out of me. It made me so mad that I relieved some of that stress by building a Lego set. Here it is if you're curious. This one was built to calm me down during the storms, and the last one was built because I wanted to. I did record some of my Sekiro Let's Plays, so look forward to that at some point. For now, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, take care everybody.